start with Dak. It's the story of the offseason. Dak and the Cowboys. A tag would be almost $38 million for this year. Do we think they're going to do it? And what are their other options if they don't?
I think this is where it's going now, right? Don't you? That they're eventually going to end up having to franchise tag him? Because at this point, it's the cheaper option. Like, the problem right now is if you're going to sign him to this long-term deal, the asking price has become north of $40 million a season.
But usually you franchise tag to buy more time.
Yes.
How much more time do you need here?
Another year. You're not getting it. Like, that's the problem, is that everything they've done to this point has led them to this issue of a complete standoff in terms of asking price. We started negotiating when we were talking about $30 million a year, and we didn't really want to go above that. And everything that's happened since has pushed it from 30 to 40, 45. We sure as hell don't want to go there. So your two options now, if you're Dallas, are to say, nope, we're walking away. You're not this good. We're not paying you this level of money. We're going to take our chances in this world of having no starting quarterback right now. Good luck to you. Or to franchise tag him and buy yourself 12 months of negotiating, or even just buy yourself 12 more months of Dak to then do the same thing in 12 months' time.
Just sign him at this point. Just sign him at this point. This was the Cousins thing. Cousins had the 2 tags by the football team a few years ago. And by the end of it, it's like if you just signed him to a 3-year, $60 million, $65 million contract that he was probably going to get at that point, the third year essentially would have been like $8 million or something, right? It would have been just with quarterbacks, the inflation rate is so steep.
Yes.
Just sign them if you think they're good enough. And I think that Dallas does think Dak's good enough.
But isn't that the problem, that at this point there's a fairly strong argument to make that like they've passed the point where it actually makes sense to pay him now? Because look, the Dak Prescott argument is an argument similar to Kirk Cousins because there is a ceiling on how good he'll be. Now, Cousins played better in Minnesota than he ever played in Washington, and I think he probably has become a better player than they thought he was capable of being. But the Dak thing is, he's going to get, if he signs a long-term deal, he's going to get Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers money. He's not that good, and he's probably never going to be that good. He is in a tier below those guys. Now, it's not a long way below those guys, but it's 90-plus PFF grades to 85 PFF grades, and that's a significant step. So given all the money they've already thrown at people, which is its own problem, right? Zeke Elliott, Jalen Smith, Amari Cooper, they've thrown around a lot of cap money already. Given that that's already happened, isn't there a defined argument to say they should have a line in the sand and we can't pay you $40+ million a season because we get crippled?
Yeah, I mean, look, I get that point. I also, the argument for the tag here is also, what's the tipping point for quarterback contracts? Have we already hit the first tipping point because Mahomes has a new contract, Deshaun Watson has a new contract? Will there be another contract that's going to be comparable to what Dak could get that's going to kind of fly in Dallas's face? And yes, there is. I mean, Josh Allen is going to get re-upped at some point. Yep. Lamar Jackson's going to get re-upped. Baker Mayfield's going to get re-upped.
All those contracts are going to do more damage to this Dak Prescott negotiation.
But could you make an argument though that the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson, 3 best in that age group?
Okay.
So it's Tom Brady first, and then everybody else. But take Brady and Rodgers out of the equation for a minute. The 3 best quarterbacks, like 32 and under, they're already signed. Mm-hmm. They're already locked up. So could you make the point that Josh Allen's not in that group yet, and Lamar's not in that group, and Baker's not in there? The other guys aren't in that group. So the ceiling is already set, and all those guys are going to do is just kind of like join the Dak group.
No, I think Josh Allen is the contract that's going to ruin Dallas, because Allen is the perfect example of, hey, look, yes, the environment around him got really good as well, just like it did with Dak Prescott for periods. And when it did, he played at a 90-plus level in terms of PFF grades this year. He was right up there in terms of accuracy. He played like an all-pro caliber quarterback. Can you say the same thing for Dak Prescott? I don't think you can. And I don't think Dallas thinks you can, at which point there's a difference between those two guys. So you can make an argument that Josh Allen deserves the $40 million plus contract, the monster deal that joins those guys because he's the next one to sign. I don't know that you can make the same argument for Dak Prescott. And more to the point, like, I think I think Dallas is aware of all this. They know that there is a ceiling of how good Dak Prescott can be that is below that tier of quarterbacks. And that's why this thing isn't done already. So if that's true, and there's a point where they don't want to go beyond, there's only two things that can happen. Either they walk away right now and say, enjoy free agency, we're out. Or they say, all right, this isn't going to get done, probably, but we're not letting you walk for nothing. We're going to get one more year out of it before we, bite the bullet.
It's a fascinating situation here. I think if he wants 40, let's say 40 APY is what he's looking for, right?
Yep.
That would put him at number 2, just APY behind Patrick Mahomes right now. But Lamar could be up in that range, and Allen could be up in that range. I don't know if Baker gets into that range, but we could be sitting here a year from now where the price is that much steeper because of those surrounding contracts. Or Dallas is saying, looking the other way and saying, well, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. And it's always this tug and this pull back and forth. And that's why I think that's why it's gotten to this point. Because honestly, if you wanted to make the point that Dak was never worth that money, you could. Or if you wanted to make the point that the idea of having a top 8 to 10 quarterback and the comfort level of having that when teams like the Patriots and the Bears and the football team are all stressing about who their quarterback's going to be, and the most likely quarterbacks for, say, the Patriots, the most attractive name on the list that's realistic is Marcus Mariota.
It's a horrible list.
And I like Mariota. He's fine, but we don't want to build a program around him. So there are arguments that can be made on both sides. What's your ultimate prediction here? You think franchise tag then?
I think it's reached the point where Dak ends. I don't think that Dallas has the guts to pull the rug out from under this thing and say, it's not happening. You're not this good. We are not paying you this amount of money. Enjoy life somewhere else. See if the grass is greener somewhere that's going to pay you more money, because we think it will be detrimental to the overall franchise going forward. So I don't think they have the guts to do that. So I think the two options are pay him his $40+ million a season, or get him for 1 year at 38 or 37 or whatever the franchise tag is, 37.69.
I agree that him hitting the open market is the least likely option, but I'm going to go with I'm always just so optimistic. I don't know why, but I think Dak and Dallas are going to figure it out. I think Deshaun and Houston's going to figure it out. I think Seattle and Wilson are going to figure it out.
Maybe,
so I think Dak and Dallas are going to figure it out.
Maybe Dallas could learn from the negotiating style of Dan Campbell, which is get Dak on a Zoom call, lean right into the camera, and say, we really want to get you signed.
Can you explain the story?
Then it'll take care of itself. The story is that there was a report coming from the Lions ownership that said, you know what, let me tell you a great story about why we hired Dan Campbell. We got on the Zoom call for the interview, and he leaned right into the camera and said, I really want this job. And that was it. From that point, then he was great. And we thought, yeah, look, all these other guys came prepared with plans of how to turn around the franchise, but none of them leaned into the camera and told us that they want the job. So we went with Dan.
Interview advice here on the PFF NFL podcast.
Look, it's all about speaking it into existence. What's that term? That's not the power of persuasion. Whatever it is, this idea of you just speak it into existence. That's what Dan did. He looked him right in the eye right up to the Zoom camera, and said, "I really want the job."
I'm gonna speak more to Zoom cameras in general, just right into the lens. All right, so I'm gonna say Dak and Dallas figure out a long-term deal. You're saying Dak gets franchise tagged.
Yes.